I'm Jerry Crow with the Pacifica Historical Society and today's host of Footprints of Pacifica, the program where each week we get together to discover and explore the lure and lore of lovely Pacifica, its character and its characters. The focus of today's show is an interesting and little-known group here in Pacifica, an organization called Operation Brown Bag. I'd like to introduce my three guests at this point. Susan Takalo is Director of Services at the Second Harvest Food Bank for San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. Thelma Clark is Team Leader of Operation Brown Bag here in Pacifica, and Pastor Tom Nibby of the Holy Cross Evangelical Lutheran Church is more or less the host of that project as it's now operated. Welcome to our show, and let's start with Susan. The mission statement provided was provide food for people in need in our community. That's certainly praiseworthy. When did it all and how did it all begin for the food bank?
So we began back in 1984. So it was a coalition of small pantries and soup kitchens that realized they were going to the same donors. And maybe a Safeway store would have 5 people in the same day say, can you donate bread or can you give us something? And they said, let's work together. And so they formed a nonprofit and formed a food bank, and then the rest is history.
So it's much more coordinated as a result of this.
Absolutely. So the donor can work with one organization and know that the food that's donated is going to go out to a wide variety of different service providers.
Mm-hmm. So in 1974, the coalition was put together, could you describe just how the day-to-day operation goes?
So Second Harvest Food Bank has a group of people that contact potential donors, growers, manufacturers, grocery stores, and we ask them to make a donation to provide food to low-income people. And then we collect that food. We have a big warehouse, we have trucks, and then we work with a network of 700 different sites in Santa Clara and San Mateo County where the food's picked up by us or delivered by us, and then it's distributed to over nearly 250,000 people every single month.
Are there other branches?
We're part of a network called Feeding America, and that's food banks all across the United States. There's over 200 food banks in the United States.
Mm-hmm. What's your position in the organization?
I'm the Director of Services, and my job is where does the food go? Which agencies get food, and how do those programs work, and make sure that the right people get the food.
How do you determine that?
It's based mostly on income. So we serve people at 200% of poverty. So for a family of 4, it's something like $35,000 a year for a family of 4.
And I suppose it's a situation that varies over time depending on the general economy and maybe the cost of housing.
Cost of housing is a big issue in this area. And we saw a huge increase in need during the recession, but that need has not slackened even though the economy has gotten better. So people are working, they just aren't making enough to make it here in this community.
I see. And there's a need for such an organization, I suppose, in each community, not just the general area.
Absolutely. In our 2-county area, 1 in 10 people is food insecure. And that means they're not sure where their next meal is coming from.
Mm-hmm. How does Brown Bag fit into this scene?
Brown Bag is a really critical program for us because it's a critical program for the community. So people who are retired or have no longer working, their income they're not going to see major increases in their income. And we realize that there are so many people with pensions and Social Security and SSI still don't have enough to provide the good, healthy food that they need. And so we have Operation Brown Bag that can provide ongoing support to our elders.
I see. And Brown Bag provides a weekly supply of food. Is that the way they set up?
Yes, we decided that it would be good to be every week, and so that it's ongoing. And a lot of the seniors may not have huge refrigerators or freezers, so they need an ongoing supply. So we provide it every single week.
And you said, did you say 2,500 households here in your
Santa
area
Clara
of responsibility?
Absolutely, 2,500 every single week.
And the goal is providing that consistent supply of food so members
Absolutely.
can afford to remain here and not have to move to
Right.
a lower cost living area. I understand that in addition, Brown Bag provides volunteer opportunities and a place for social interaction. The volunteers and clients make connections through the weekly distribution activities, and we have, I think, an excellent video that illustrates just that. So
Absolutely.
let's run the video, please. And there's Holy Cross Church.
Which is our wonderful sponsor for Brown Bag. And it's up in Lindemar, so you can see a view from the road. And here comes our truck. We have a fleet of trucks that come from our 2 warehouses in San Jose to bring the food up here. There it is coming up Seville Drive.
So it's labeled Genentech, so I presume they have a prominent part in this.
They are important donors for us, and they've donated specifically to pay the gas and the maintenance on that truck to drive to Pacifica. They also have large volunteer groups that come and help at the food bank, and they package food for us with their volunteers. So they're an important partner of ours. And Genentech is really important. They're in South San Francisco, and they want to support their local community. So there's the truck backing up, and
Takes some skill, and there in the background you see Joanne Zavarel, who's one of our camera operators, as it happens this evening.
And so in the truck, there's an order for specifically for Pacifica. So it has the amount of each of the different items, so there's enough for the over 100 different households that get food there at the church.
And this is in every Friday activity.
Absolutely, every Friday.
Now we'll get a chance to see the kinds of things that are provided.
Right. They set that outside the door to careful with the floor. And so the volunteers, everyone you see except Charlie there, the driver in the front, is a volunteer that comes every week. And they unload that hand by hand, case by case, bag by bag, and bring that into the room.
That impresses me quite a bit.
And how long does this activity take to unload, typically?
About 20 minutes at the most.
They're very efficient.
Yeah, that's, so he's got what look like bags of rice there.
And we provide a variety of items. About 70% of the food is fresh fruits and vegetables. Second Harvest is really committed to providing healthy food for people. There's Joanne again.
You were mentioning that the onions came from some distance.
Those onions came from Arizona. We're being really affected by the drought in California. Many of the fields are being fallow because they are preparing to not have water to grow the crops. And those are some bags that, an example of what Genentech might have done. So they would have volunteers that pack those bags. In each bag is vegetables and fruit and a grain, and so they're pre-packed bags and that they can get given away really quickly at the site.
And that was all part of the bagged were non-perishable items?
Correct.
I see.
Correct.
And here's produce.
Right, we have a
From?
warehouse that's just for produce, and that's where that pallet came from. Produce and bread. We have a huge volunteer crew that sorts through it and boxes those items.
And they're provided or made available by Second Harvest?
Correct. Oh, and there's our webpage, so if people want to find out more specifics about this, there's the webpage.
And people can certainly help out if they wish to do so.
Absolutely. So the volunteers are doing everything at this site. They've set up those tables, they're organizing the bread so that someone who wants wheat bread can choose wheat bread, or someone who wants rolls can choose rolls. And they're organizing it so that they can bag up the groceries really quickly and efficiently. And there's one of our aprons. We try to both recognize and thank our volunteers because they're so critical, but also it helps to unify the group as a group of volunteers that are helping at that site. And then Charlie's taking back the recycling that they've organized.
Great process.
So it looked like that was his last stop. I suppose he starts the day pretty fully loaded.
Absolutely. So now they're here organizing, they're getting ready to bag. We were really affected in Brown Bag when they stopped charging for bags at grocery stores. And so you'll see in this video, there's a number of paper bags that people have donated, and also there's a number of reusable bags because we're trying to be green as well at Brown Bag. And all of those things are donated, so it's important to be able to have something for the people to carry their bag, their food out in. And this all happens before the people come to pick up their bags. And Thelma told me that she gets there at 7:30 in the morning, but Joanne gets there at 6:30 in the morning every week. Oh, and there they are ready for the members. And there's the reusable bags that people are taking the food out to their cars. And we also have a number of people who pick up for other people, so that's what that person's doing. Pacifica is fairly hilly, and many of our seniors may not be driving any longer, and so there are people who will go to the site, pick up a number of bags, put it in their car, and then take it out to people who weren't able to come on their own to pick up. And it looks like that day everybody was getting 2 bags. Oh, because they've got the special bags that were bagged up in advance, so that's a lot of food, 2 bags for each family that day.
I see Thelma sitting there
Yes.
Yes.
right next to my palm.
And there are the bags ready for the members. Each person is signed up and they have a membership card. And we felt that that was really important, that it's a membership and a self-help program. It's not a charity. It's for people who help and for people who become members of the program. So they show their card and are marked off the list and get their food.
Well, it's certainly an impressive amount of activity there.
And such an amazing commitment from all the volunteers that make it happen. It couldn't happen without the donation of the church, without the time of the volunteers.
Well, that was an excellent video, and we want to thank our cameraman and videographer, Steve Brown, for visiting our local Operation Brown Bag group a week ago to catch them in action. One couldn't help but notice in the video the very active lady that is Thelma Clark. Now, Thelma, you're the team captain. How did you get that job?
I got that job through Pat Peck. She then was with Pacifica Resource Center.
Oh, yes, I remember Pat.
And she told me she had a job for me because I built up quite a friendship with Pat. And I said, well, you know, I just retired and I really don't want to work. So when I come back from my walk, I said, well, what is it, Pat? She said, this is a job just for you. And I must say, I think it was a job just for me. I accepted it, and that's how I got started. That's been 19 years.
Well, Brown Bag was originally, as I understand, a part of Catholic Charities.
Yes, it was. It was the Resource Center and Catholic Charities that started.
It's this is one of the oldest sites in San Mateo County, the Pacifica operation, and it started in the early 1980s, I understand.
I would say.
Yes.
And where was it originally? It was,
Over at the Ocean View Apartments.
Ocean View Apartments.
oh yeah,
I
across from the
wasn't there
community
then,
center.
but anyway, with the Ocean View Apartment.
How many? Do you remember how many volunteers were working at it when you first became?
When I first started, it must have been about 8 at the most.
Mm-hmm. And now it was over 20, I think I
Oh,
heard
yes,
somebody mention.
it is. And all of them are seniors, with the exception of 2, and that's a man and his son. His
Good.
son is in school. When
Next
he's
generation
out
is getting-
on school break, he come and work with Brown Bag.
Mm-hmm.
And his father's still working.
So what's a typical day like for your group?
A typical day,
Yeah.
like? Well, actually, it's
We've seen the unloading, but
yeah, it's a busy day, but everybody know what they have to do, and they get at it and do it eagerly.
Is it primarily seniors who need help from Operation Brown Bag, or do you find other
Well, it
families
is
as
really
well?
for seniors. However, if you're 55 and handicapped, you know, you can get it. You know.
I see. And you definitely encourage people to eat healthy diets.
Yes,
And
yes.
give them that opportunity with what's provided. We've seen what goes into the bags and an impressive variety. If people want to help out with the program, how can they get involved?
They
Listen.
can just come in and register as a volunteer. If they order any other way they want to help, come in.
Mm-hmm.
File out of
and
application
Every Friday this is when the unloading is going on.
every Friday.
What's the best time for them to come in? At what
Well,
time?
actually, the best time for them to come in would be earlier, before we get started.
Oh, because there's definitely
Because
some
when they
setup.
come in when you start it, you know, it just kind of messes things up.
Yeah, get people organized and
Yeah.
assigned to
Yeah,
their.
yeah.
Okay. What would you say that you personally have gotten out of this volunteer
Well,
effort?
I've gained, might I say, because with my age, you know, I went through it, and I know how to deal with people. And I love helping people that really need it. And it's a pleasure for me to work for Brown Bag. I look forward for Friday
Yeah, excellent.
because there's so much love. And with our little group there, it's just like a big family. You go in to meet your family, you know, and we just get along so well there. We have no problem at the church with Pastor Nibby. We never hear from him, hardly ever do we see him. But nevertheless, I've gained, still might I say, more love in my heart for people that really, really need the help.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Thelma. Pastor Nibby, please tell us how you got involved with the program.
Well, we had a program at Holy Cross before. As a matter of fact, we've always considered ourselves to be kind of community oriented. And so we had a similar program by the name of SHARE that my wife Priscilla had administered for a number of years from 1984 until 1991. And at that time, the Nibbies went as missionaries down to Peru, and somehow or another, the organization of SHARE just kind of dropped. And after that, the larger organization of SHARE also kind of disappeared from the scene. So it was kind of a natural thing for us eventually to want to have second harvest at Holy Cross when I returned, which was in 1995, just about the time that we got back from Peru again.
Let me show a photograph of an earlier bit of travel that you engaged in. Would you describe what we're looking at here?
Well, that's Reverend Nibby in about 1983, when I arrived back as a missionary from Pakistan. The cap that I'm wearing there is a Peshawari topi, which means a hat from Peshawar, where I was the pastor of St. John's Cathedral. The pictures are two impressive people in my life. The one on the right is Jesus Christ, and the other on the left is the ruler of southern Waziristan, a man by the name of Waziri Khan, who was my ruler, the one who kind of not only watched over our missionary activity, but also protected us. So he was a good friend, just like Jesus has been.
And your congregation didn't always meet at the current location. This is a picture of an earlier site.
We started at Pedro Valley School in the Lindemar district, and eventually ended up in a house across the street from where we are right now at Seville Drive. So this is a prayer meeting, a very, very early photograph, and it's got to precede 1955, maybe 54 or 55, when we still were not an organized church. We were just a Christian community, and here is a group of folks that are praying inside of the school building.
But then, opportunity.
Somewhere about 1954 to 55, Andreas Odsted, who was the developer of that Lindemar area, said for 4 choice lots on Seville Drive, this must be a religious community. Now, I don't care what Christian denomination it is, but I want a church here. And so for a very, very reasonable amount of money, the Lutheran Church in America, Board of American Missions, purchased this land, placed a wooden cross that you can see there with one of the most gorgeous views that you have in Pacifica, and that's where Holy Cross Evangelical Lutheran Church is now.
And I think we can get on camera the charter of your church. Can we? All right.
This is our original charter, all handwritten. And among those people, and I've never really counted to see how many there were, but I think there were about, what does it look like to you, Jerry? Maybe 200 signatures, 300 signatures. I know we had a Sunday school of about 200 children when this was a community of children. And among all of those people, there are only 4 that have survived to this day. And all of those people I have known and loved over the 30 years that I've been here. And I have buried most of those people that are on that on that charter.
And your church has received some interesting recognition for your activities.
Yes. Now I treasure this a lot more than I used to. Tom Landos is kind of a hero for me, especially since the development of the famous tunnel that we have here. And this was a congressional recognition that was given to me for some of the work that Holy Cross and that I've done for seniors and convalescent people from actually about Santa Clara County up to San Francisco.
And we were going to show you the structure that you
Yes.
that is your church. I think we have some shots of the architect's renderings. There.
This was Plan A of the Lutheran Church of America Board of American Missions to build an educational plant with a worship center as a first step in development. And after these 55 years, that original plan was never replaced by the dream that American Missions had and our local synod in Northern California and Northern Nevada. And I think you have a plate of that also. The educational plan is just that small area underneath the superstructure that was supposed to be a magnificent worship center, and an additional administrative unit over on the right that never developed. So if anybody's ready to make contributions for that, to make it one of the fine worship centers on the West Coast, just go ahead and send all of your contributions to Jerry Crow.
I'll see that they get to the right place. Another of your long-term activities has been the annual celebration of Easter morning on Sweeney Ridge. And I would like to see if, yeah, that's the page I wanted. So could you describe, well, I guess it's pretty obvious here, and then I'll turn the page
Yeah.
and there'll be more persons. People.
What I'd like to do is share that this is a portfolio that was prepared by a family from Good Shepherd Catholic Church, which shows that this service has traditionally been a community-wide kind of event. It was the Almaty family from Good Shepherd Catholic Church, and they have been involved with that service since its beginning, and their children have attended every year that they've been alive. As a matter of fact, they attended even when they were still in the womb, so quite a tradition.
Well, before we close, I just wanted to mention a few of the other food resources in Pacifica. The Pacifica Resource Center operates a food pantry, and also there's family distribution from the community center, Meals on Wheels, and a monthly produce mobile from Second Harvest. It stops at the resource center. So that tends to fulfill a wider coverage of needy people. And if people want to get in touch to learn more, they can visit the website shfb.org or call 650-610-0800 to help with food distribution. That's all the time we have today. I want to thank our guests, and if you want to help out with the Historical Society, you can write to Post Office Box 752 or call 650-359-5462. And we'll end with the words of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing, leave behind us footprints in the sands of time. Thanks for watching our show.
Thank you, Jerry.
Good job.